Hello and good evening. Welcome to Be Inspired with Pepe Minambo, your inspirational show for personal career and business development. And tonight, I want to introduce a very interesting topic, cultivating a growth mindset. I was once told that every average person can count the number of seeds in an apple tree, but it takes someone with a growth mindset to count the number of apples in a seed. Did you know that every step forward in the progress of mankind was started by people with a growth mindset? My mentor one time told me many years ago that there are only two kinds of mindset in this world. You have people with a growth mindset, and then you have people with a fixed mindset. You see, people with a fixed mindset are fellows that you've met and known for 10, 20, 30 years, but nothing to write about concerning their lives, their careers, and their pursuits. They have been static either in career or in society. One time I flew in a country and I was privileged to send one of the best drivers of that organization to come and pick me at the airport. And upon just meeting the guy who picked me at the airport, and we got into his car, this slick car, well kept, well maintained, very well behaved gentleman. And he started engaging me as he was taking me to the hotel, and I asked him, I said, for how long have you been working for this organization? And he told me, oh, I've been here since 1999. And I did my math quickly. It was 2022. I said, oh, 1999, these are 23 years. And I say, you've been doing the same job since you got here? He say, this was my first job and I enjoy it. I do the same thing. As I went on talking to him, I wondered and asked myself this question. For 23 years, this fellow joined this organization as a driver, and 23 years later, he's still a driver. But don't get me wrong. He told me a little bit about himself. He's got 2 kids. One of them was about to graduate from a medical school. Another one was getting into some engineering degree programs. He lives in his own house. He has few rentals here and there. He's done well as a person, as a father, as a husband, and as a family man. But I told myself one thing. I said, had this fellow been challenged to think broader, wider, I think it could have gone 3 times, 10 times more in his life. I say, was he having a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? I leave the debate to you. To validate our topic tonight, I had the privilege to sit down with Kazooba Kawamara. I won't speak much about Kazooba Kawamara, and I'd like to introduce you to my guest tonight. So ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome my guest, Mr. Kawamara. Welcome, Ron.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good to be on your show.
Nice to have you here, Ron. It's a great pleasure. It's a great honor to have you here, sir. So, Ron, I went to LinkedIn and I read something about you, Kazooba Kawamara. I love the statement on your profile, working with brave minds to reimagine African innovation and ingenuity. Ron, tell me something about this.
Well, I think that is my life. I have been in tech space for the last 15 years. I have created companies that have gone on, obviously, to transform industries. Before Jumia and during Jumia, we've created amazing value chains that have created tens of thousands of jobs. And we've created this as young Africans, young people who have ideas, who are looking to deploy real solutions to real people, and they have become successful businesses. So I see myself as part of that group of people who are looking to transform our economy, to transform our country, and to transform Africa. So I think that it's a fitting slogan, I would say. We use that in our company at Kawamara Group.
Wow.
Brave minds.
Wow. Looking at how far you have traveled, you look quite young, the impact, the kind of work you've done, and the kind of pursuit you're having in life. If you look at yourself back as a child, were there clues that were obvious to your future success? Were there things that could tell people around you that this child is not ordinary child, this child is going somewhere? Were there clues?
Well, I think that I'm not sure there were clues or cues. However, I remember my childhood very well. As a number one, I was very curious. I always asked questions in class. I was a good communicator, I would say. So I was the kind who would talk in class that teachers would move me. Teachers would move me from one corner to the next, and whichever corner you put me, I adjusted quickly and started talking again. So at the time, I was seen as stubborn, but now I know that I was just a good communicator.
Oh, sure.
So maybe part of that communication was from then. Another cue that maybe I can recall is that a sense of responsibility.
Okay.
I started to do responsible things. I was paying fees for myself and my siblings when I was 8 or 9 years old.
Wow.
Walking to the bank, going to the teller and paying fees for my siblings.
So your parents gave you the money?
Parents
to
gave me the
everybody.
money, and even the neighbors would give me money to go and pay in the bank.
How did you find your inspiration? What made Ron different from the siblings, from the kids in the neighborhood?
Yes.
Where did you find? Was there an inspirational person in your life that influenced you to think the way you thought, to behave the way you behaved at such a young age?
Yes, I think there was a lot of inspiration. I think the biggest inspiration was my father and my mother. How they raised us. Number one, they gave us that sense of purpose. They trusted us. They planned with us. So I was very young, 8, 9, and sitting down with my dad and my mom to decide things. So my dad trusted me to give him counsel. He never did anything without consulting with us and the rest of my siblings, of course. And so it brought trust. And so we grew up in a family whereby we knew that our dad expected so much and he believed in us so much, to the point that we were so driven to prove his trust. We were so driven to validate how much he trusted in us. Another part that for me sticks out is that what we saw, he suffered quite a lot to put us in the best schools. He was a farmer, a middle-class farmer, but he made sure that his kids went to the best schools. You know, the inspiration doesn't end there. So then I left Uganda when I was 17.
Okay.
Went to the US.
For further studies?
I was still 17. So I left after senior 4. And I don't know why I left, because I didn't know anybody. Initially, I thought my uncle would be there, but my uncle came back, so I went without anybody, and I struggled to fit in. I failed to get a student visa to continue to study. I was struggling to find a place to stay, what to eat. It was a difficult 3 years or so. And I remember I finally got a job at a video rental place. And I was working there. I was working 2 jobs. I would leave at night, at midnight, after working for 14 hours or 16 hours. I would fall asleep on the bus, and the bus would pass my stop. This is already midnight, so the next bus would come an hour later. I would get on the same bus going in the opposite direction. I would fall asleep again. And so I struggled a lot, and that built a lot of character. And then what I remember as well, when I was working and I was not going to school, whenever kids of my age would come with their parents to that shop, I would go to the bathroom and cry whether I would get an opportunity to also go to school. And I told God that, God, if you give me a chance to go to school, I will not disappoint you.
Did you see yourself coming this far? Will you tell me maybe 3 things that defined your success in terms of career and entrepreneurship?
Well, I think that the confidence that I got from my family, the confidence that I got from my time at Ntare School, my high school, before I left Uganda, because the school I went to, Ntare School, it's not the academics that you get, it's a confidence that it gives you. But the key aspects that you mentioned about critical things about my career is that I did take risks. So after I graduated from Oxford, I had gotten a job at the UNDP in New York. And by all measures, that's where I should go.
Yes.
My parents wanted me to do it. When I came back to Uganda to do the Hello Food concept. So we're delivering food from restaurants. And we had people who told me and told us, we can't believe that after you've been to Cambridge, you've been to Oxford, you've come back to Uganda to deliver food, to become a delivery boy. But we believed that if this has already happened in North America and in Europe, why not in Uganda? And why not us?
Absolutely.
And so we came back to do that. The second aspect that I remember was I was very uncomfortable with the status quo. Very, very uncomfortable with the status quo. So, and that is partly due to what I went through. Even when the business started doing well, I always thought it could be taken away, that it could end and I go back to that boy. So I wanted to, crisis-proof the business, to crisis-proof myself by opening up more businesses, more concepts, to make sure no matter what happens, I am secure.
Were you using a particular model to build Omagara group of companies? So what was the inspiration behind it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think for me it goes back to building security.
Okay.
You know, I always knew that as I built businesses like Jumia, which has grown and become a big brand across the continent, there would come a time when I need to scale back because the business is intense. If you worked in tech, you'll understand that it's 14, 16-hour days you have to work. It's intensive and building it was a challenge because we had to teach consumers about a new concept. We had to teach the brands and vendors about a new concept. And then we had to actually build the concept, build the ecosystem. At the time, there was no company doing payments. There was no company doing last mile logistics. There was no company doing commercial negotiation. We had to build this from scratch. So the more I understood that my experience was building concepts and building brands and building ecosystems, I wanted to build something similar.
Okay.
That's how Kawamara was born. I was born in looking at the gaps that were available. When I was building tech companies, I saw gaps in hospitality, I saw gaps in logistics, I saw gaps in security, and I used my experience in tech.
So like a platform business model where you connect this to this, to this, to this, to these platforms.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right. I just want to know the transition from Hello Food to Jumia. How did that happen?
Well, I think number one is even I was surprised, and I think that part of my journey you will see is that the jump from leading a small business to leading a massive business, not just in Uganda, but in Kenya and Tanzania, in Rwanda, was a huge. And I made a comment yesterday. I was on a show and I was telling people that never doubt your ability, your capability. Never think that you're not good enough, because doing things you think you're not qualified for or qualified to do is the beginning of your growth.
Wow.
Now for me, that's what the journey was at Jumia.
Did you have like a mentor, coach, someone hand-holding you, or you are building the plane as you are flying?
No, I think number one, we had gained good experience in food delivery business. And so managing a bigger online platform that's in 10 countries was a huge step. But also I had a strong appetite for execution, for getting things done. In my mind, I knew that I was young. I was 26 and managing a company that had 2,000-3,000 employees, and with incredible number, but 20,000 vendors selling on there. But I also knew that I could work harder than any other Jumia leader, that I had something to prove. And so I took on the challenge. And I thank God that the brands, the vendors, the consumers in Uganda believed in us.
Ron, if I may ask, I know most entrepreneurs are not as lucky as you are. Most of them go out there with a lot of gusto, enthusiasm and expectations. But then, the bubble bursts, They don't turn out to be what they dream of becoming. Are there times where you doubted if you turn out to be who you are today? or the biggest mistakes you've ever done into your through your entrepreneurship journey?
Well, I think that was yesterday. I doubted yesterday.
Okay.
Yes, I doubt every day. And am I doing the right thing? Am I focusing on the right priorities? Is this business going to work? Now, how do I resolve that? Is that I'm a process-focused person. I believe that number one, you must measure everything.
Okay.
Right? You cannot grow what you do not measure. You must take care of the details. The details are what make the bigger picture. The most successful CEOs that I follow, that I know, do the details very, very well. And the other part, the last part, which is equally important, is do not allow comfort to paralyze you. What I see in CEOs and in entrepreneurs is that comfort creeps in. We become comfortable, and comfort becomes the enemy of progress. I have never been comfortable. I am so worried that what we've built today may not survive tomorrow. And so I do everything possible. I track the details, I become uncomfortable, I take risks to make sure that we're building a business for the long haul. Because the mistakes we do today will cripple the business. So yes, I am not comfortable. I am not certain that what I've done is enough or will be enough. So what do? I keep expanding the ecosystem. At Kawamara, we started initially with security. We went into logistics and hospitality. Now we're doing fintech, we're doing green tech. We're expanding because number one, we know that Uganda is at the beginning of growth in every space. But number two, I am not comfortable that what I've done is enough. That it could come crumbling down.
This is very interesting though, Ron, because they say there are two kinds of mindset in this world. You have the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. So what you are talking to me here is about the growth mindset. So you started from one sector to another, to the other and another. And you say you are always expanding the pie, thinking about the next big thing. So let me ask, what is the next big thing for Kawamara Group?
Well, I think number one is that we want to first consolidate our growth. This has been a very difficult year for business.
Sure.
And so we are heavily leveraged in hospitality, it has been affected. We're heavily leveraged in security, it's been affected. We're heavily leveraged in logistics, it's been affected. And so number one is that be lean, be efficient, wait for the times to get better. That is our priority. But then we know that other spaces that we're going into, we're expanding. We've expanded already to Kenya, we're in DRC Congo, we've opened in Dubai, and there we want to accelerate in that space. So in some areas, consolidate, be lean, but in others, we're becoming a little bit more bullish to make sure that we can ride the wave in other countries while we consolidate our businesses in markets where it's not going as well. But for me, the future is how I see myself. I see myself basically as a transformer. And how I look at a business, when I see crowds running this way, I don't really follow the crowds. I just stay behind and look at, see what have they dropped.
So you pick on what they've dropped.
Yes, and what have they not seen as they were running, right? So you could argue that, okay, but I've done restaurants, I've done bars, and all these things. What are you doing that's different? I look at what everyone is doing and say, what have they not thought about? That's my business.
Amazing.
What they've not thought about. So when they're running, I see what is dropping, what they've left behind, and that becomes my pathway.
Absolutely.
To
That's a masterclass. That's a masterclass. I read in your profile that Kawamara Group build businesses, mature them, and at some point sell them off. It's a concept that in Africa we don't want to do. Africans, we want to die with our ventures. I was telling a group of investors, investment clubs on Saturday, a program sponsored by Centenary Bank I was facilitating, that in Zimbabwe they say, better a 10% of an elephant than 100% of a rat. Now, some of our investments are so small, like rats, that need being scaled up, need strategic partnership, as you say, or joint venture, or all these, venture capitalists coming in. But we'd rather die with those small things than be part of a bigger thing and then own just a small stake. Do you think it's a good idea sometimes to build a business from scratch, mature it, make it viable, and an investor comes and say, hey, I need this one, let it go, get a better return, and then go build better businesses, even more businesses? What do you think about that concept?
Well, number one is that it's important for business owners and entrepreneurs, number one, to know your competence. And so very often you start a business because you're interested. Let's say you're interested in tourism and you build a lodge, and the lodge does very well, you have very good service, but then you build another one, it's also doing well. Now you had 10, but you're not an expert in marketing or in sales or in corporate governance. What happens? That the scale you've reached now begins to cripple your business because you don't have those structures, that tourists are not coming at the same scale because you've opened too many, and when they come, you're not able to manage the experience. Now, what should you do? You just, number one, you should be self-perspective, that self-reflect and say, I am not an expert in this. I need to find a company or an investor who's one, strong in marketing, two, strong in management systems, who can take me to the next level. So yes, if you're grossing $10 million a month from this, and with this new partner on board, you can double that to $20 million.
Absolutely.
But what we find is that we're comfortable with a very small piece of the pie, but it belongs to us. So a small cake. Instead of growing the cake, so you get a smaller piece, but it's still massive, much bigger than your cake before. You mentioned correctly that you'd rather get a small chunk of an elephant
than
100% of a rat.
Yes.
But we see in Uganda that doesn't happen, is that we will rather die with our rat than work with somebody else.
Amazing. Recently I was in Zambia, I was staying in a very big Eritrean hotel. I see Eritreans have gone beyond East Africa to Southern Africa investing.
But they're investing collectively.
Not as individuals.
Now you could say, Ron, but Eritreans, there are fewer tribes in Eritrea, and so it's easy for them to collaborate. No, not at all.
Wow.
I think it's a mindset.
So Ron, what will it take for us, Ugandans, Kenyans, Congolese, Burundians, Rwandans, to start thinking that way? What will it take?
Well, I think number one is those examples. I'll share my examples. As out of the 18 companies under Kawamara, I have partners in 6 of them. So about 1/3 of all the businesses I'm involved in, I have partners. And all of them, in those 6, I have more than one partner. And it has worked very well.
Wow.
And so my hope that whoever listens to this, that there's real opportunity in partnering with people. It doesn't have to be a family. In fact, it's better if it's not your family. That is better with strangers and not friends, because that's going to be built, the relationship will be built on business, sound business. So number one is learn from those who are working together. Number 2, look for opportunity. There's opportunity everywhere. You must be willing to look. You must be willing to take a chance and not be comfortable with a job of employment, or you're comfortable with your business. Know that things change. The economy is unstable, inflation is unstable. So make yourself, even if it's a job, make yourself indispensable in the job if you're an employee. If you're the entrepreneur, make your business indispensable. But you cannot make a business indispensable 100%. So you need to create a bigger ecosystem. And so for me, that's what has worked for me. It's what I've seen work for my friends. Many of them, when I look at Safe Border, was started by a few guys who went to school with, and all these companies, but they have one thing in common, is that they take risk, but they're also not shy to stop what is not working. They're not shy to add on what works. So you have to pull the plug if things are not moving on. Sometimes we hold on too long. We become too emotional about our business. Your business is not your child.
But then they also invest as a group.
They invest.
That is a big takeaway.
You must invest
from
as a
this show
group.
tonight.
Yes,
Wow.
yes,
Ron, we can't finish this conversation. I want you back and back and back on this show. I love one thing you've said, that you have to look at the model. Don't just look at the success, look at the model, what's behind the scene. Look at the recipe at the kitchen. What puts this beautiful cake or this beautiful, So thank you very much, Ron. It was a great pleasure having you here.
Thank you so much.
I think we need more of Rons, not only in Uganda, but in East Africa and Africa.
Thank you
People
so much.
who have gone ahead of the rest to inspire and to give the confidence to others to go also their full potential. So Ron, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure
Thank you for
meeting you
having me.
and looking forward
Thank you so much.
to meet
Thank you.
again. Thank you.
God bless. Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you very much, our viewers. It was an amazing conversation. Two things here. I read recently something about Elon Musk, the richest person in the world. He said anything and everything that Ron said to us tonight here. Number one, he said, to be successful in life, you must be useful to your fellow humans and to the world. Do something that is so useful to the world. And number two, he says, you must expand the pie. Don't have scarcity and fixed mindset. Have a growth mindset. And if I can recall what Ron has been telling me all this time, he's a gentleman with such a growth mindset. From Uganda to the state, from the state to Uganda, and from Uganda to Africa. Amazing story, amazing model. Welcome back. That was a destiny unfolding and purpose unveiling conversation with Ron. If you've watched this show for a while, you know one of my favorite quotes is, a single conversation with the right person can be more valuable than many years of studies. Sitting down with Ron, wow, I felt like I was in a masterclass. What a story, what a growth mindset. And to all our viewers tonight, I'd like to leave you with some homework, which I call the 5 questions for cultivating the growth mindsets. If you have a pen and a piece of paper, I'd like you to write down these 5 questions. Question number 1. What else can I become apart from who I am currently? You could be a system engineer, a painter, a carpenter, a hairdresser. What else, screaming within, what else can you become apart from who you are currently, right now? That's question number 1. Question number 2, what else can I do apart from what I am already doing right now? What else can I do? Question number 3, where else can I go beyond where I am standing right now? Where else can I go beyond where I am standing right now? Question number 4, what else can I see beyond what I am already seeing in my life, in my business, in my family, in my career? What else can I see beyond what I am already seeing? And question number 5, who else can I associate with beyond the people I am already associating with? Who else can I partner with beyond the people I am already partnering with? I say, a growth mindset asks questions. A fixed mindset seeks for answers. You see, a growth mindset is about abundance. A fixed mindset is about scarcity. I was in Southern Africa recently, and I was told they have a saying there that says, better a 10% of an elephant than 100% of a rat. A fixed mindset is so stingy, is so scarce. A growth mindset sees more, desires more, and goes further. So I'll finish tonight's conversation by just giving you that homework to think about what else you can become beyond who you already are. Where else can you go beyond where you already are? What else can you do beyond what you are already doing? And what else can you see beyond what you're already seeing? And who can you associate with apart from the people you're associating with right now? And that's what I call a growth mindset. And this is my parting shot. As a child, I knew Mitsubishi as a car that transported people from one point to another. But as I grew as an adult, I came to understand the makers of Mitsubishi are people with a growth mindset. They are not in the business of cars. They're in the business of mobility, moving people, moving things from one place to another. If you're in the business of, if you have a scarcity mentality, all what you think is a car from one point to another. But if you are an abundance and growth mentality, you don't just think about cars, you think about anything that can move. So Mitsubishi is not in the business of car making, they're in the business of mobility. Did you know that Mitsubishi makes lifts? If you go to Dubai, the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, the powerful lift that takes people up those floors are made by Mitsubishi. That's mobility. You know, car is horizontal mobility. Lifts are vertical mobility. Did you know that if you travel in most of the big airports in the world, some of the elevators are made by Mitsubishi? That is mobility, moving people from one floor to another. Did you know that Mitsubishi makes aircraft? They make aircraft. You know what? Moving people from one country, continent to another. That's again mobility. But let me shock you. They also make ships, vessels that moves cargo from one continent to another. So they are not in the business of making cars. They're in the business of mobility. That's not a scarcity mindset. That's a growth and abundance mindset. Until next time, I wish you to have an abundance and growth mindset. See you next Tuesday. Until then, be inspired before you expire.